Praise be Jesus Christ. I'm Sister Gabriella of the Incarnation, and I have been presenting some of the background of Pope Francis's documents for contemplative nuns, Vultum Dei Quaerere and Coorans. In our previous sessions, we have seen that in 2014, the Dicastery for Consecrated Life sent out a questionnaire to all the communities of contemplative nuns around the world, and you can read the questionnaire on our relative documents page. We saw that in 2016, there was a meeting of consecrated persons at the Vatican for men and women religious, both active and contemplative, as well as for consecrated virgins. There were 300 contemplative nuns at the meeting, and we had 4 days of meetings with members of the Dicastery. At one of the sessions, we were given a resume of the answers to our questionnaire. As I mentioned in an earlier video, 4,000 copies of the questionnaire had been sent out to communities of contemplative nuns. Sister Fernanda Barbiero, SMSD, who works at the Dicastery, gave us a summary of our responses to which the Dicastery had received. You can read Sister Fernanda's conference on her relatives' documents page. From 4,000 copies of the questionnaire sent out, the Dicastery received 2,596 replies. This is a response rate of 65%. According to most statistics, a good response rate for questionnaires is from 5% to 30%. An excellent response rate is 50%. So the response rate to the Vatican questionnaire to contemplative nuns is a super excellent response rate. In her synthesis of the nuns' responses to the questionnaire, Sister Fernanda said that the primary concern voiced was formation. Not just training of candidates, but a deep formation that enabled the religious to embark on a lifelong journey of contemplative life, a journey whose goal is transformation into Christ. To quote Sister Fernanda, "The theme of the image of God is central in the spirituality of ancient monasticism, transformed into the image of Christ. This transformation through a long process of conversion is the object of monastic formation. The understanding of formation in the abbots and spiritual fathers of the past was to generate Christ in their disciples. They were to lead their monks to be transformed into the image of Christ. For the fathers, monastic life was not a reality to which you could train someone, but rather a state of life into which someone allowed himself to be formed. All of this directly refers to the great monastic tradition, the search for God and for true wisdom. A monk is recognized if he truly seeks God, St. Benedict says. This search, however, is composed of tests and losses, and the search engine is the capacity to live in the presence of a hidden God in a constant search for his face, that is, in a search for glimpses of Jesus Christ." So, is it here that we see the source of the title, Vultum Dei Quaerere, the search for the constant face of God? The search for the face of the hidden God is the essence of the monastic life. This reference to St. Benedict refers to chapter 58, paragraph 1, the rule of St. Benedict. Quote, "The procedure for receiving brothers," and refers specifically to the formation of novices. Quote, "A senior chosen for his skill in winning souls should be appointed to look after them with careful attention. The concern must be whether the novice truly seeks God." Vultum Dei Quaerere, seeking the face of God, that is the goal of contemplative life. That has always been the goal of contemplative life. And if in any way contemplative nuns have been diverted from this goal, then we must make every effort to find our way back to this original reason for our life. We see that in Vultum Dei Quaerere, Pope Francis is not proposing something new and unheard of for contemplative nuns. He is redirecting us back to the original goal of our life. In later conferences, we will see more closely how this is proposed in these documents. One last point. How much of the nuns' responses to the questionnaire actually got into VDQ? To answer that question, I will quote Father Thomas Nelson, the director of the prestigious Institute on Religious Life that was established by the servant of God, Father John Hardin. In an article on Quaerere, Father Nelson writes, quote, "Though it is difficult to determine how significant the consultation process was in the final draft of VDQ and Quaerere, Sickle Cell's Secretary Archbishop Jose Rodriguez Carballo, OFM, has stated that both VDQ and Quaerere reflect very well what the nuns themselves asked for in the replies to the questionnaire. And since the law follows life, with this instruction," he's talking about Quaerere, "we have tried to adapt the legislation to the life of the monasteries." Archbishop Carballo also has shed light on the actual drafting process for VDQ. Initially, from the questionnaire's responses, 3 summaries were made by women, men were not involved, that is a quote, and sent to Pope Francis. He read them and gave them to a small commission of nuns, who then wrote a draft for VDQ based on these responses. Pope Francis reviewed this draft and added his own annotations and additions to it. The second normative part of VDQ was written by a group of canonists, independents of the congregation, Sickle Cell, unquote. So we see that far from Pope Francis imposing on contemplative nuns a document totally disconnected from our life, he wrote a document which has the fingerprints of the nuns themselves all over it. They are primarily our documents, even before the Pope confirmed them. In our next conferences, we will look at other conferences given at the meeting in Rome in 2016. Please help us by praying for us and making our website better known. Share the link, www.seekingthefaceofgod.org, with your friends, your pastors, and all those who value the contemplative life in the Church. God bless you.